Greg Amsinger does a great job. MLB Tonight, weekdays at 6 p.m. On MLBnetwork.com. Kind enough to join us for a couple moments. Greg, how you been, pal?
I've been good, Rich. Guess what I was doing today?
Well, where are you calling from? Were you enjoying warm weather?
From my office in Secaucus, New Jersey.
Secaucus, the old NBA offices. All right.
Exactly. Well, actually, we are in the old MSNBC building. They moved into the city. I'm going to blame Olbermann for that.
Yeah, you might as well.
We got wired for great studios, and we took over this building. It's been wonderful since 2009. But I taped our top 100 prospects countdown show with the prospect gurus Jonathan Mayo, Jim Callis of MLBpipeline.com, and our own Bill Ripken. It is a loaded list of young talent, so that will debut Saturday night on MLB Network. Just to invite you to that.
Excellent. Well, hey, we'll get. I'll tell you what. There's a couple of young teams I want to get into, but let's start first. I mean, kind of start on a downer with the tragic news. I mean, baseball loses two players. Obviously, the former, the vet in Marte, but then the young hurler in Yordano Ventura. And listen, he was a feisty, fiery guy, just 25 years of age with the Kansas City Royals. He had a great arm. Like I said, he was part of that team. Huge reason why they won it in 2015. It's unfortunate some of these losses we've seen, the tragic loss of life with some of these players, but from a baseball standpoint, so close with pitchers and catchers right around the corner, I would venture to guess it's going to be tough for the Royals to overcome this, at least early on.
Yeah, listen, it's almost, it feels not right to go out and say, wow, the Royals got to look for a starting pitcher now. But the timing of this, and I'm talking like collective timing, when you have free agency looming for cornerstone players, Eric Hosmer, Mike Moustakas, Lorenzo Cain. You got these guys. This is like the last hurrah for the Kansas City Royals. They're not going to keep all these guys. Yeah. So to lose someone this talented, and listen, you can say that the Kansas City Royals are probably not going to get back because the Cleveland Indians are here to stay. I'm sorry. Dan Duffy is one of the most talented pitchers in baseball. From the left side, one of the best lefties in the game, Chris Sale up there. Yordano Ventura, in terms of just raw stuff, Duffy to Ventura, this was going to be their breakout year for both of these guys. So it's a tragedy anytime someone loses their life at such a young age. But for someone like Yordano Ventura, who loved to compete, and he's an old-school competitor, much like Jose Fernandez was for the Marlins. These are guys that aggravated the opposition. You don't want to play against them, but you want them on your side. And we saw Manny Machado charge the mound and fight Yordano Ventura, and chances are if Yordano pitched 18 years in the big leagues, that would not have been his only fight. This is a guy that did not want to make friends with the opposition. He came out and he tried to win. And one great story that a lot of people don't know about, Carlos Correa told me this on a plane. Carlos Correa, his rookie year, the Astros were so close to knocking the Kansas City Royals out of the playoffs. You remember this, Rich. The Royals eventually came back in that series and won the World Series. Carlos Correa got hit by a pitch on his front leading left elbow by Yordano Ventura. It was a 98-mile-an-hour fastball. It hit him in the elbow. That injury stayed with Carlos Correa the entire year, all of 2016. He was suffering from severe elbow pain, but never talked about it. Told me about it. That's why his numbers weren't exactly where everyone thought they were going to be. He didn't hit 30 home runs. He didn't hit over 300. But Yordano Ventura, after that game, everyone thinks Yordano's a headhunter. Carlos Correa is brought out of the Astros clubhouse after he was hit by that pitch in a ton of pain. And Yordano is standing there with Swanee, the head of media relations for the Royals, and he's bawling. Like, he's crying. And he felt so bad that pitch got away from him. Basically told Carlos Correa, look, I know how to hit people. Please forgive me. That one got away. That's my mistake. I would never intentionally hit anyone in that spot. So he asked for a hug. Carlos gave it to him, and that's really who Yordano Ventura was. People look at him and view him in a different way because he liked to compete, and it's just a sad loss of life, no doubt.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because you talk about another feisty pitcher many moons ago from the Dominican was Juan Marichal. Doesn't have that Ventura didn't have that high leg kick and wasn't really the headhunter that Marichal was, but you saw kind of like the glimpse, the fiery, the feistiness on the mound. And I think sometimes when you lose that, you never get it back. Some franchises never get that back. So it'll be interesting to see how Kansas City goes forward and certainly how they recover. I'm curious to get your thoughts. Switch gears a little bit to the NL East, and we'll get to the Phillies in a moment. But the Mets, what do you think the Mets are going to do with Jay Bruce? I mean, you look at that outfield; it's overloaded with Granderson, Conforto, Lagares. Now you got Brandon Nimmo under contract as well. So, what do you think they do with Bruce?
I have no idea. I mean, and I wish I could come on your show and give you the exact answer, but the guy was just so bad when he got traded over to the New York Mets. If you're a team and you're in the mix for the postseason, Jay Bruce scares you. Like, if you're playing meaningful baseball games, is this a guy you go get? And that's why, not that I'm trying to get to a different topic, but that's why the MVP matters in terms of, are you on a playoff team? Meaningful baseball games feel different.
No,
Jay Bruce didn't play a meaningful baseball game for the Cincinnati Reds. He was coasting through. They weren't in the mix for the postseason. He collected 3 RBIs in games they lost 11-5. So when Mike Trout wins the MVP, and he's on a team that's towards the cellar of the AL West, not playing a meaningful baseball game, just ask Jay Bruce how the pressure gets ratcheted up, because he just collapsed. How does a guy go from leading the National League in RBIs
I'll tell you how.
to looking completely befuddled in New York?
I believe, and this is just me, I believe that sometimes when these players have solid careers and they get traded or they're free agents, some are not cut out to play in New York. That's just what I believe.
New York, listen, it's the big market. That's one thing. But with success comes coverage.
Hey, I know.
Right?
Absolutely.
Right? So if we're talking about a New York Met team that he goes to, and they're looking at Jay Bruce as a long-term fixture for the Reds and right, or for the Mets in right field, and they make the deal for him, and they're 15 games out of a postseason spot, people aren't going to be writing and covering him the way they did when they acquired him as the big trade deadline deal. You're our 2016 version of Yoenis Cespedes. You better play like the Ruthian Yoenis Cespedes, because that's what he did. He carried us on his back
yes, he did.
To the postseason. So when Jay Bruce walks into the New York Mets in the postseason mix, yeah, it's a tough market to be bad in. Ask Chase Headley what that's like. Chase Headley, I mean, I was at the writers' dinner, the New York writers' dinner, and they gave him the New York Good Guy Award, because despite the fact he was so miserably
he was able
bad,
to handle the media.
He handled the media every single day. And I look, Jay Bruce got to his tipping point towards the end of the regular season when he was lifted for a pinch hitter, and he went in the clubhouse, changed clothes, and left while the game was still going on.
Yeah,
so it was a miserable year for him.
It was. All right, let's go to the Phillies. And again, 1:30 on a Wednesday. Greg Amsinger does a great job. MLB Tonight. You can also catch it at 6 p.m. throughout the offseason. MLBnetwork.com as well. Great baseball coverage. We'll get to some of those prospects in a moment. But as far as the Phillies, we saw what their pitching was able to do early on last year, and smoke and mirrors. They came back down to earth. You saw them get rid of a couple of veterans over the last several years. Now the storyline is going into the season. Okay, Pete Mackanin, is he going to get a little more job security once spring training arrives next month? And I'm just wondering, what's your sentiment, if you have a thought on this, if you think that they will give him a contract extension? Because, again, he's under contract through 2017. He's got a club option for 2018. I get from a record standpoint, 71-91 first full season under him. So they had a strong mark in July, and then kind of fell by the wayside August and September. But they had a ton of injuries to that pitching staff. So what do you think they do with their skipper going forward?
I foresee exactly how you described his contract factually is how it will remain if he's lucky. And that is 1 year and an option. 1 year and an option. Pete Mackanin, to me, is in the Rick Renteria class of big league managers. You want him there while it's going to be tough, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Once J.P. Crawford's ready to go and take over at shortstop, once Mickey Moniak is ready to take over as the Gold Glove award-winning center fielder, last year's #1 overall pick, you can move Herrera to second base. Once this team is ready to get its new core together and start making a push, because I think everyone's high on the young starting pitching of this Philadelphia Phillies team. I mean, their stock is trending north in terms of the young arms that they have. Then you're going to see this team make a switch. And hey, look, Pete Mackanin has an opportunity to prove himself as a big league manager. And how many times do you hear these guys say, all I want is an opportunity? He's got it. And he's got another year to show the Phillies brass that he can give you the X's and O's and the leadership of men that they're looking for, manage a bullpen properly, not overload the innings of these young arms, and get them ready for the push. So I don't expect a long-term fit for Pete Mackanin. I think he's a good baseball guy, but chances are my friend Larry Boa will be the bench coach for a different Phillies manager in 2 years from now. That's my projection.
Now, you said something interesting about, sometimes you can overmanage or you can have these guys out too long. I mean, look, it's not like the 60s and 70s. These guys were going to 8 strong. They were throwing complete games. But we kind of saw what was happening last year with some of these arms, whether it was the Nolas or the Velasquez or the Helix. I mean, it doesn't matter. These guys were tiring towards the end of the season. Is that just, to be fair, if you're not getting the run support you want to keep in games, then you have to keep these guys in games. Was this an issue where he was waiting too long to pull the trigger, overworking these guys for fear of trying to go to middle relief or the bullpen? Because like I said, I think it's tough when you throw in a lot of injuries. I think at times it's tough to kind of gauge the manager or the head coach in any respective sport. But you think this is a situation where he's just over his head right now?
I don't know if he's over his head. I look at it like this is a team that's not ready to win. So what is the common denominator of a team that's not ready to win? They do not spend money in their bullpen. They just don't do that. They don't make major investments. So when there isn't a plus arm to go to, and you might have a plus arm in terms of velocity, but you don't have a street cred of, Jenmar Gomez was a really pleasant surprise in the back end of that bullpen. I don't think anybody expected Gomez to have the year that he ended up having.
No, he pitched well. He
pitched really well. But that's what they went into the season with as their closer. Right? So they didn't make major investments like we saw this offseason. I mean, Kenley Jansen got paid, Aroldis Chapman got paid,
right.
So when everyone else is going one direction, the Philadelphia Phillies, in terms of smart thinking, are going, this is money that's not going to be well spent. We're not going to spend in our bullpen. And it's hard to take the human element out of the game if you're Pete Mackanin and you're only down a run. You've battled back. It's now 5-4. Aaron Nola's on fumes. He's in the 6th. Hey, kid, give me one more inning because I don't have a better option in the bullpen right now. I want to win the game. So how do you toe that line when a guy like Pete Mackanin is going to be in a 1 year and an option going forward forever, as long as the manager of the Philadelphia Phillies, and wins matter to him.
Yeah, but you know what, Greg? To me, though, not to cut you off, that I don't like that line of thinking. If I'm management, lame duck, lame duck, lame duck. We'll come back and we'll look at it after the year's out. To me, I think from top to bottom, we already saw they moved some personnel pieces from the front office. I think any franchise that has some stability that plays winning baseball, again, any sport for that matter, if the coach starts winning, or the manager wins and people are starting to buy in, I think you give them the benefit of doubt. I just don't like lame duck status, because then sometimes if things go south, guys start quitting. They're not running the base paths. They're dogging it out there. Then all of a sudden you get a situation where you're 71 and 91 one year, and then all of a sudden you blink and in the All-Star break you're 30 and 52, or you're 25 and 60. You're already out of it, and guys have nothing to play for.
Yeah, well, Rich, I'll say this. Every manager's in a lame duck situation, because if it gets really bad, they'll fire you no matter how many years left on your contract. So it might give him more money, but Mackanin could get fired on a whim, almost as if anybody could. I mean, we were talking about John Farrell was on the chopping block at one point with the Boston Red Sox when all he did was win a World Series as their manager. There is no loyalty at this position. There is zero. And what we also have to remind ourselves, we're used to the losing lately for the Philadelphia Phillies. This is a major media market. Philadelphia is going to be in the mix for one or two of these marquee free agents when they come out. I mean, this class is going to be incredible in 2018. And the Philadelphia Phillies, this gigantic city with a fan base that's all about sports, and they're okay with being a bottom 5 payroll? No.
Maybe you listen to. I don't know if maybe you've been listening to my show. I like the feistiness on the air. I like it.
Thank you.
Listen.
Well, I'm telling you, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Listen,
Maybe I got a job.
Yeah, right. Tell me about it. I know we got to start wrapping up. You mentioned every manager is basically a loss away and one out. Let me go down to Washington real quick. This is a team that won 95 ball games, and it just seems it's always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Next year is going to be the Nats, the Nats, the Nats. I mean, you go into this season. Is this really a make or break season right now? When you look at Washington, just from a whole franchise standpoint, with all the players, all the payroll, all the talent?
No, I mean, they better win it. They better play the Chicago Cubs in the NLCS. That's bottom line. I don't know if they can win that series. Love Max Scherzer as much as any pitcher in the game. You got 2 years left with Bryce Harper. He's not staying.
Nope, I agree.
So you got 2 years left. That's why they went all in, and they made a move for Adam Eaton. I think Adam Eaton's a good player. That trade screwed everything up. That trade is why Brian Dozier is still a second baseman for the Minnesota Twins. If that trade never happens and the Washington Nationals do not give the White Sox 3 marquee pitching prospects for Adam Eaton, then the Twins are going to go, sure, Jose De Leon, he's a top 50 prospect. We'll take him for Brian Dozier. But if you're the Minnesota Twins and you've got a second baseman who hit 42 bombs and he's got a club-friendly contract and you're looking over and you see Adam Eaton getting you an entire farm system from the Nats, then you're going to want a hefty return. And they never got it. So the Eaton deal screwed everything up. They better win with Adam Eaton. The funny part is Adam Eaton's going to be the replacement to Bryce Harper. Harper basically admitted that on Twitter after they went out and made the deal. So they got 2 years left for Bryce Harper. The Jason Worth contract's coming to a close. He's not the productive player he once was. They're going to need a bounce-back year from Rendon at third base. He's going to have to play
and
at
see
the
if Murphy
level.
And see if Murphy can duplicate what he did last year.
I think
that's the big question.
Rich,
to me, that's the big question.
This dude he's figured it out.
Yeah.
Whatever he figured out in the postseason during the end of his Mets run, he understands baseball at a level that no one else can. From the left side of the batter's box, he's going to be an MVP candidate again if I had to put my money on it. They got to get something from Ryan Zimmerman. At the end of the day, I don't care how big of a city D.C. is, you can't have this many $100+ million contracts on one roster and not go to a single World Series. So yes, make or break year. I say make or break years. 2 years left for this Nats team to go to the World Series.
All right, and everyone, for the Baseball Phil, MLB Tonight, weekdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time throughout the offseason, MLBnetwork.com. And Greg, before I let you get out of here, you also mentioned when you guys are going to be showing or airing or have all that content up for all those the 100 prospects of 2017.
Yeah, Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. I'll be on with our guys from MLBpipeline.com. They know the prospects better than anybody. So tune in Saturday night for the Top 100 Prospects Countdown Show on MLB Network.
Hey, we'll get you back on. Enjoy Secaucus.
Yeah. Oh, you enjoy Atlantic City, one of my favorite destinations.
All right, you got to stop by.
I'm going to go have lunch. I'm going to take a train to Manhattan. It takes about 10 minutes, Rich. I'm going to have a nice lunch. I don't know where you're going to go for lunch, but it's going to be a good time.
Hey, well, I pack. I pack to go. All right, Greg. Thanks, pal. You got it. All right, be well.